Hey, what's up YouTube? My name is Sam and I've been in tech for over a decade now. And I wanted to just share my story on how I went from non-technical roles at companies like Google and Yahoo, then transitioning into a software engineer working at some startups in San Francisco, to now where I am essentially owning my own consulting business where I help businesses run more efficiently and I help them build web apps and set up AI automations for them. At Google, I worked on the Street View team, and essentially each day I worked with photography agencies to help them capture the Street View experiences. And it was really great. I loved working at Google. I was able to, ride that bike every day. All the stories you hear about Google, pretty true. Food is delicious. Who could say no to free food, right? The work culture was great. Fresh out of college, I was really exposed to what being a professional really looked like. I really had to learn how to structure my emails well, how to show up in meetings, how to meet deadlines. These are all very important skills that might seem small, but really lay the foundation of how to communicate professionally. I remember at Google, I was also surrounded by really smart people and really top talent engineers. And I remember the first seeds of my interest in software engineering grew from working with a bunch of engineers and kind of seeing their lifestyle. And it really just sort of piqued my interest in wanting to learn more about software engineering. That's when I started dabbling, taking some classes on Code Academy, starting to dip my toes into programming. Then I worked at Yahoo, where I was on the search editorial team. And Yahoo was great as well. At the time, Marissa Mayer was the CEO, and she was really revamping things and the culture. At Yahoo, I was still doing a non-technical role, which was supporting engineering teams on the editorial side of things. I would be doing a lot of QA and testing. And once again, I was exposed to engineering. I started taking night classes. I remember after work, I would take the bus all the way to San Francisco to take a part-time full stack development class. At the time, they used Ruby on Rails, which was kind of the hot framework then. And I think for me, the biggest thing was I felt that I wanted to be closer to the product. I wanted to have more impact when it came to developing a product instead of playing a supporting role. And I remember telling myself, you know what? I can do this. I'm pretty computer savvy. I'm pretty sure if I studied and worked hard, I can transition into engineering. And so I made a decision. I was gonna transition into engineering. So I then attended a boot camp called Hack Reactor, which was one of the top coding boot camps in the Bay Area. And that's where I really solidified my programming foundation. At the boot camp, it was straight 3 months coding every day. It really taught me that if you really want to learn a new skill, one, you got to be super committed, and two, you just have to immerse yourself every single day, just hammering this skill, improving and learning as many concepts as possible. And so the bootcamp really solidified my foundation. I learned everything from how is a website structured? What happens when you type a URL into a browser? What's HTML? What's JavaScript? What's React? All of these were jam-packed into my brain. And for 3 months, all I did was code, nothing else. And finally, I landed a job at a startup company called Zumper, and eventually another startup company called WorkRamp. And at those companies, that's when I really was able to use all of the skills I've learned from the bootcamp. And it's a roller coaster of a life. There's highs, there's lows. Sometimes you feel like you're a genius solving these tough problems. Other times, you throw all the solutions you could possibly think about and nothing works, and you feel like an imposter. And so after doing engineering for a while, then comes along this AI train, right? Where AI can write code for you, and it's really solid code. And I could see that I needed to learn AI, to be immersed in AI in order to not become obsolete. And so I decided, I think I'm gonna start doing my own consulting business, building web apps for companies, and really understanding how to use AI and leverage it well to 10x my productivity. Because now instead of having to write code line by line, I can now be an engineering manager who's managing all of these coding agents to build things in a month that might take 7 months before. So that's where I'm at now, and starting YouTube and posting content is really a way for me, one, to let people know about my services, two, to share my journey as well as share my insights and things I've learned about AI, and three, just to push myself out of my comfort zone, to really try to learn skills that I'm not too familiar with, but I know is gonna be useful down the line. Thanks for listening, and feel free to subscribe, like, comment, whatever you're comfortable with. I'll see you later.